Carnivorous plants seem to defy all laws of nature. They are plants that eat animals, often with leaves that move in surprising ways. Most carnivorous plants gobble up insects, but the very largest can kill shrews, mice, and even rats. These deadly plants are my passion. I've spent 10 years climbing hundreds of mountains to study them in the wild and to search for new species. And even after all these years, I still find carnivorous plants amazing. They evolved to eat animals so that they can survive in extreme habitats where few other plants can grow, from the misty jungles of Asia to the summits of Venezuela's lost worlds. All of these habitats have one thing in common. They're starved of nutrients. By preying on animals, carnivorous plants gain an advantage over regular plants, and so can flourish in these marginal areas where they have little competition. By far the most famous carnivorous plant is Venus's flytrap. We will dedicate a whole World's Most Spectacular Plants video to this extraordinary plant alone. In this film, we'll concentrate on the species of carnivorous plants that are a little less well known, but just as amazing. Carnivorous plants are not difficult to grow, but most have very specific requirements, which you need to understand and get right in order to grow them successfully. Some of the biggest and most spectacular and actually easiest of all carnivorous plants are these guys. These are Sarracenia, or pitcher plants. They occur from North America, particularly from the southern USA, and they occur in a rainbow of colour forms and varieties and different variations in all shapes and sizes. There are 7 species in total, several of which form trumpet-shaped leaves, so this group is often known as the trumpet pitcher plants. These amazing structures are not flowers but leaves. They're known as pitchers, hence why these plants are called pitcher plants. And they have a very clever way to capture and kill and eat insects. The inside of the pitcher, here at the mouth at the top, has lots of glands that secrete honey-sweet nectar. And insects can smell that nectar and either climb up the outside of the pitcher or land on this very colourful lid. They then try and get at the nectar, but the whole mouth area is really, really, really slippery. So they slide and fall all the way down inside the trap, all the way to the bottom. Once they're inside, it's very, very hard for them to escape. The inside of the pitcher is waxy, and at the bottom it has downwards pointing hairs. And so the trap bugs can't escape. They eventually die and are digested by the enzymes the plant secretes. And that's how this carnivorous plant gets its meal. In the wild, trumpet pitcher plants grow in peat bogs, exposed to very high levels of sunlight. In cultivation, they also need to receive several hours of direct sunlight each day. Their roots are very sensitive. The chemicals in tap water can poison them, so it's best to give them rainwater. And they require nutrient-poor soil, such as sphagnum peat mixed with horticultural sand or perlite. The trumpet pitcher plants are actually really cold tolerant. Most species can survive frosts and even freezing. And in many parts of the temperate world, like here in England, you can make fantastic bog gardens with them, all growing outside. Trumpet pitcher plants are really easy to propagate. As each plant grows, it forms a rhizome. And along the length of the rhizome, little buds develop, and these eventually grow off as separate growth points that form branches on the rhizome. It's very, very easy to separate the divisions of the rhizome, which can then be potted up as individual plants. So let's go through that process. The plants will actually get to a certain size where you need to take them out of their pot and repot them anyway, because the rhizomes will eventually creep over the sides of the pots. But just very gently, just move out all the soil from the roots. This is best done, by the way, in early summer, which will give the plant to recuperate over the rest of the growing season. Right, now I'm down to the rhizome, which you can see here, and there's a growth point right there. Those can be potted up like that. And it's best to push the base of the rhizome right back to the back of the pot. Like that. And there you have a freshly potted pitcher plant, and you can treat it exactly as you would an adult specimen. It'll grow absolutely fine. The trumpet pitcher plants have a cousin that also grows in North America. This plant is called Darlingtonia californica, or the Cobra Lily, because its hollow leaves are shaped like a striking cobra. This plant has a complex trapping process. Insects enter its leaves and are tricked by see-through windows and then fall down into the depths of the leaves. Cobra lilies are really good fun to grow in captivity. They have very similar growing requirements as the trumpet pitcher plants. However, there is one difference. They definitely like temperatures that are a little bit cooler. If you give them over 30 degrees C in summer, that can really set the plants back. The pitchers can wither, and in extreme cases, if they get really hot, then the actual plants can die. In particular, the roots need to be kept cool, and often people do that by pouring water and letting that trickle down through the pots during the day. So it's best to start with the trumpet pitcher plants. If you succeed with them and want to try something a little more unusual, then you can give the Cobra Lily a go. The biggest group of pitcher plants are Nepenthes, known as tropical pitcher plants. They originate mainly from Asia, and around 170 species have been discovered so far. Their deadly traps are really diverse and come in all shapes and colours. The tropical pitcher plants have more specific requirements than many of the other groups of carnivorous plants. You can grow some species on your windowsill, but most either need a terrarium or a specialist Nepenthes greenhouse, such as this one behind me. Let's go have a look. Check it out, it's like a little rainforest in here. It's so beautiful. Okay, you'll notice looking around, there's many significant differences with the growing conditions of other carnivorous plants. Nepenthes in captivity generally don't do so well in direct sunlight. They like a bit more shaded conditions. Dappled shade is absolutely great for them. With slight shading, 20, 30, 40% shading over the greenhouse is perfect. You'll also notice that these Nepenthes are not standing in water. These plants also need rainwater. They must have very low nutrient water, but they mustn't stand in water because that can cause their roots to rot and that can kill the plant. They like substrate that is very, very loose and open and airy that allows the roots to grow through it, but it's not too dense. And they need very high levels of humidity. If the humidity is too low, they won't develop their pitchers properly and they won't grow very happily. And of course, most importantly of all, they must never get freezing temperatures. These are tropical plants. If you give them sub-zero temperatures and it freezes, they'll just die, they'll be stone dead, completely and utterly gone. But if you can meet these criteria and provide the conditions that they require, they'll actually grow quite vigorously and surprisingly quickly in some species. Look at this one back here at the back. This is a hybrid, a Nepenthes truncata hybrid. And just look at the size of these pitchers. That's knocking on what, 40 centimeters, I'd guess? They can be absolutely stunning. If you don't have a greenhouse or a terrarium, there are many smaller carnivorous plants that are ideal for a windowsill, especially sticky-leaved insect-eating plants. Among the easiest to grow are Drosera, also known as sundews. They grow across the globe and range from tiny species a few millimeters across to giants that stand 1 meter or more tall. Some form towers made up from dead foliage, while others climb through surrounding vegetation. Many have breathtaking blooms. And Pinguicula, known as butterworts, another easy-to-grow group of sticky-leaved carnivorous plants, and they also may have beautiful flowers, as colourful as orchids. Sundews and butterworts catch their prey in the same way. They have glistening droplets of glue on tentacles that insects get stuck to. Many species of sundews and butterworts are very easy to grow and will thrive on a windowsill or in a conservatory if given strong light, rainwater, and a peat-based soil low in nutrients. There are many other groups of carnivorous plants, each with their own lethal methods of trapping prey, such as the marsh pitcher plants, the Albany pitcher plant, and bladderworts. Many of these have more complex growing requirements, but once you master the basics of cultivating carnivorous plants, then these are well worth a try. So, carnivorous plants. There's hundreds of types to choose from. Not only are they spectacular, interesting plants to grow at home, but they'll even gobble up some of your flies. So good luck and happy growing.